live in the wild, exist in the wild anymore, because a lot of them were hunted to extinction in the 1950s. But there are some in captivity, but a lot of them are not bred because, unfortunately, a lot of the white tigers in captivity in some zoos and safari parks are results of inbreeding, which gives them very severe health problems. Of course, one thing that always amazes me about tigers is that they, along with the jaguar and the fishing cat, are the only cats that actually like water. Tigers love water because it helps them to keep cool during the heat of the day, but it's also where they can actually hunt their prey. Quite often it can slow down their prey to escape before they go in for the kill. Tigers feed on a wide range of prey. They can take anything from a termite right up to an elephant calf, which is absolutely incredible. But of course, the biggest prey they usually take down are things like water buffalo, and of course their favourite prey is sambar deer. And on rare occasions, tigers have turned to being man-eaters, but that's usually down to the fact that people have encroached on their land with livestock, but also people can be really, really stupid. And as I said, it is desperately rare, but it always is something you've got to have in the back of your mind when you're working with tigers, is that they can occasionally be man-eaters. Tigers have been used as a symbol of power and majesty for centuries in China, Korea and India, but also through literature like with Rudyard Kipling's Jungle Book. Shere Khan, the tiger, was the main antagonist. Because once a tiger has made a kill, it's time for it to eat. The tiger always begins with the animal's rump and can eat about 40 pounds of meat at a single sitting. Then, once full, it hides the remains of the carcass in foliage so scavengers like jackals, wild dogs and even vultures can't get free meal. The tiger then rests within eye line of its kill to make sure no one else touches its prize. It will then eat this meal over the next 2 to 3 days. And tigers are hunted by no species except for man, and over the last 100 years the tiger population has been destroyed from 100,000 to as few as 3,200 left in the wild, putting them on the endangered species list. And there are many reasons for that. I mean, they've been hunted for their coat because it's so beautiful, but also because human beings want to take on their powers, and so tigers are hunted for their bones and body parts to be given to the Chinese so they can use them in traditional medicines and even tiger wine. And the medicines have absolutely no scientific proof that they work, but regardless, the Chinese are obviously too stupid to realise that what they're doing doesn't work. And of course, of all the species of tiger, humans have already driven 3 species, Caspian, Balinese and Javan tigers, to extinction. And if this carries on, then tigers are going to be gone forever, and to me that is a heartbreaking thing. But if we keep building up breeding populations in captivity, as well as work with people like WWF and all that to protect tigers in the wild, we may be able to save the largest of the big cats from extinction. Of course, this here is tiger's range. As you can see, it's quite small in comparison to the past, but Of course, hopefully in the next few years that population could increase. Now for a bit of a comparison with the cheetah and the tiger. Now the cheetah is a lot smaller and lighter. It has different bone structure, flexible hip and shoulder joints, a very flexible spine and a shorter head to make it more aerodynamic. And that means that the cheetah can keep up a chase for a fair bit longer than many other cats. Whereas the hefty bulk, power and muscularity of the tiger means that if the chase isn't over within about 300 metres or so, the tiger is going to have to give up. Now for a second big cat of Asia you've all probably not heard of, the Sri Lankan leopard. Now, Sri Lankan leopards are found on the island of Sri Lanka, just off the south coast of India. And they are the largest leopards on the planet, but I'll get to that bit in a moment. Of course, a male can weigh about 77 kilos, and of course they have canine teeth as long as my index finger, and of course, like other leopards, they are masters of stealth. In fact, they use stealth and their camo colours to sneak up on their prey, because leopards won't indulge in an all-out chase like a cheetah. Instead, they just need to creep within about 5 metres of their mark before they pounce, and they can kill their prey with a bite to the throat or the back of the neck. Of course, the Sri Lankan leopard, it has a variety of prey that it takes. I mean, their main diet consists of spotted deer and sambar deer, but also they have even been seen taking on and killing fully grown water buffalo, which is absolutely incredible. But they will also take on smaller animals like peafowl and rabbits. Of course, as I've mentioned before, the Sri Lankan leopard being the largest, I mean, that's all down to where it lives, because in most of Asia, leopards are outcompeted by tigers, but Sri Lanka has no tigers. That makes these leopards the top predators. They're bigger, bolder, more brazen. They're also Sri Lanka's largest predator, and also they don't have to climb up and take their prey up into trees. And probably the best place in Sri Lanka to see them is Yala National Park, which is probably the most famous national park in Sri Lanka. And although it's the best place to see them, there's only about 30 or more in the whole of the park, and it's still a leopard, so the likelihood of you being able to see one can be a bit of a gamble. So that is where they live, on that tiny teardrop-shaped island. And the next cat I'm going to show you is one of the most beautiful, the snow leopard. Snow leopards are one of the largest cats on Earth. They are found in the mountain range of the Himalayas, which is the highest mountain range on the planet, where some of the peaks there can be over 2,000 metres above sea level, so way higher than Britain's highest mountains, and also where the air is thin with little oxygen, but the snow leopard manages to survive up there, which is just incredible. In fact, they can grow, perhaps a fully grown male can grow 60 centimetres at the shoulder and weigh between 45 to 55 kilograms. But probably the most beautiful characteristic about them is their fur. I mean, I mean, they have a white or grey fur with black spots or rosettes, and these incredibly beautiful blue eyes. And if anyone is a fan of Philip Pullman, then you'd know that a snow leopard was the form that Azrael Black was demon Stalmaria took and settled as. And of course, snow leopards feed on a wide range of prey. I mean, they mostly take marmots, wild sheep, ibex, and even blue sheep, but quite often they will prey on the yaks that have been domesticated in that part of the world, but only if there's very little prey around do they prey on yaks. And of course, snow leopards are master hunters of the Himalayas. I mean, they usually stalk their prey from a high vantage point and usually begin their attack when they are about 6 to 15 metres away, and they chase their prey over the rocky terrain, which can be quite dangerous because one miscalculated step and a trip or a fall could either be fatal or result in a life-threatening injury. And of course, they can even chase their prey down almost vertical cliffs, and of course, once they catch it, they finish it off with a bite to the neck. And just like with the other big cats I mentioned, apart from the lion, the snow leopard only interacts when it's time to mate and produce offspring, or when it's clashing over a territory. And quite often when a female will have 2 to 3 cubs, and she'll raise them till they're about a year old, and then they head out on their own. Unfortunately, snow leopards, like all the big cats except for the African lion, have now become endangered. And that's because of humans. I mean, for one thing, there's the illegal poaching for their fur and for their bones to be used in traditional Chinese medicines. But there's also that they are losing much of their habitat to agriculture, like farming. Also, humans are killing a lot of their natural prey, which means there's very little food for them, and they result to killing livestock, which can result in human retaliation. But it's with Chester Zoo and Twycross Zoo building up breeding populations in captivity, and other zoos around the world making breeding programs for these cats, it is possible that we can save them from extinction. And of course, that is their range in the Himalayas. The next cat I'm going to show you is probably the most threatened by extinction and most at risk, and also one you've probably not heard of before, the Asiatic Lion. Asiatic lions are their own separate species to their African cousins. They are only found in northwest India and are very different, and are a very different cat to the African lion. And one reason they're different to their African cousins is the males have a smaller and darker mane, where you can actually see their ears, and of course, they have a distinctive fold of skin down their underside, but the biggest difference to their African cousins is the way that Asiatic lions organise their social structures. In Africa, prides